Everybody, welcome back to another video with your boy Shifty from Shifty's 49ers Talk. In today's video, we're going to cover all of the news that has happened with the 49ers since the end of the Seattle Seahawks game. We already talked about Colton McKivitz, but there is a lot of other stuff to talk about, and we're going to get into it right after the intro. The San Francisco 49ers, we are 1-0 on the season, a big time win on the road against the Seattle Seahawks. However, you may call this a Pyrrhic victory, I believe is how it's pronounced, but it's a win, but at what cost? So let's talk about the cost. And first up, of course, you got to talk about the quarterback, Brock Purdy. During the game, didn't really see anything wrong with Brock Purdy. There was no reports immediately after the game. However, Monday morning, Kyle Shanahan says Brock Purdy has a toe injury and a shoulder injury and is questionable that he'll play against the Saints in week 2. As the week has gone on, the reports have kind of gotten a little bit worse. Earlier today, Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, two known insiders of the NFL, they said that Purdy's going to be out for 2 to 5 weeks. Not great. However, John Lynch was on KNBR in the Bay Area, and he said that it's more of a week-to-week thing. So how I'm looking at the Brock Purdy situation as of right now is I'm going to assume that he is out for the game against the Saints. I'm going to assume he misses week 3 against the Cardinals, and then we're going to have to look ahead. Hopefully he can come back then for week 4 against the Jags, who I think have an underrated defense. And then after that, short week, you play the Rams. So hopefully Purdy will be good to go against the Jags. I mean, of course, if we're hoping for things, you hope he can play this Sunday. I just don't think that's realistic. When it comes to like Mac Jones and how he'll do, we'll talk about that when we preview the 49ers and Saints game. Don't want to get into it right now. Look, this is a bummer. You just pay Brock a lot of money. It's not his fault that he got hurt. If anything, how gutsy was it of him to, just finish the game in Seattle with a toe injury, with a shoulder injury, despite all that, no George Kittle, no Jennings, and we still got the win. Sure, the pass to Tonjes was maybe lucky or just a 200 IQ play, I don't know, but we got the win and that's what counts. But it's a bummer that we're missing Brock Purdy, I think, for at least the next 2 games. Let's now move on to George Kittle, and George Kittle left the game, middle of the game, just before halftime, I believe, against the Seahawks, and it looked like he pulled his hamstring, and that seems to be the case. The Niners have officially put him on injured reserve, which means he is going to miss the next 4 games. So we're talking at New Orleans, home against the Cardinals, home against the Jaguars, and then on the road in Levi's South against the LA Rams on Thursday Night Football. He will be back, though, for a big Week 6 game at Tampa Bay, which I think is one of the more difficult games on the schedule, so that's a silver lining, if you want to call it. In the meantime, Braden Willis, the tight end, has been called up from the practice squad, so he's going to be there, with Jake Tonjes and with Luke Farrell to man the tight end position. I think you are going to see Kyle Juszczyk also kind of fill that role for the next 4 games. Someone that I want to keep an eye out to is, depending on how Braden Willis does, I think maybe for the next week or 2, keep an eye out for Ross Dwelley. He's been with the team a number of times before. He knows the offense. He has shown ability in terms of receiving. So that's someone that we could kind of keep an eye out over the next month or so while George Kittle is out. Jauan Jennings, he had a shoulder injury. He's day-to-day. As of Wednesday, he has not practiced. Hopefully he can go today at practice, or at least tomorrow, because it's going to be Mac Jones going on Sunday. You want to have as many weapons out there, and having reliable targets like a guy like Jauan Jennings will be massive to help Mac Jones as he becomes a starter for at least, I think, the next 2 games. But probably, some of the biggest news, though, is that Jake Moody, the 3rd round pick out of Penn State, he was cut by the San Francisco 49ers, and he has been replaced by Eddie Pinheiro. Now, Jake Moody, we all know his struggles. Ever since he injured his foot against the Cardinals, early in the 2024 season, so last year. Ever since then, he's just been a nightmare. We all know what happened at Tampa Bay last year, where he just felt like he missed every field goal. Deebo Samuel getting into it with Tabor Pepper and with Jake Moody, and now maybe coincidentally, none of those guys are on the team. But look, Jake Moody had to go. You just cannot rely on him. And the fact that he missed 2 kicks against the Seahawks, one was blocked. Whether you want to blame him or not, that's another discussion. But missing from inside 30 yards is just unacceptable. And he's already have major question marks. You just can't rely on him. Like, it can't be a case where if you get down to the opponent's 25-yard line, let's say it's 4th and 12, that you have to think about going for it there because you have no faith in your kicker to hit from like 43 yards. Just can't do it. So the Niners have made a move, and we've signed Eddie Pinheiro, someone who, a little bit surprised that he was a free agent. If you look at his numbers, pretty solid over his career. For extra points, 94.3%, so pretty good with that. Overall, his last year, he was 84.6% on all field goals. Something of note is from 40 plus, he was 70%. So that's pretty darn good compared to Moody. From 40 plus yards over the last couple years, he has been 50%. So we'll take that. A lot more efficient there. I think it's a good move. And I think Jake Moody, look, you wish him the best. It obviously ended up being a pretty bad draft pick, unfortunately. Of course, we all hoped that he would become the next great kicker. It didn't happen, and good luck to him. But I think we had to move on, and hopefully Eddie Pinheiro can come in and steady the ship. You just want that consistency. To point out as well is that Eddie Pinheiro, he has spent time with Brant Boyer before. Back in 2021, Pinheiro was with the New York Jets for a little while, didn't play the whole season there, but at least there is some familiarity. He's a guy who has, been in the league for a number of years. This isn't new to him. He's not like a rookie kicker going out there. Kicked game-winning field goals, been in pressure situations. So you just hope that he can come in and steady the ship. I think that we also have to be realistic that every kicker does miss some field goals. So Pinheiro's not going to be perfect, but as long as he's kicking it a lot more consistently than a guy like Jake Moody, then I think we're in really good shape there. Some other big news out of this week is that the 49ers brought back Kendrick Bourne. So Kendrick Bourne, the wide receiver, he was brought into the team as an undrafted free agent back in 2017, the first year of the Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch era here with the 49ers, and I really like this move. Kendrick Bourne, as an undrafted guy, didn't really do much the first couple of years in the league, but then he really came on and came into his own. And where Kendrick Bourne is so good is that he reminds me a little bit of Jawan Jennings. They have a different style of play. Jawan, obviously super physical. Kendrick is not that. But what I do really like about Kendrick Bourne is that he can move the chains. And he did that with San Francisco when he was here in this offense before. If we look at some of the years in San Francisco, 2018, he had 42 catches, 30 of them went for first downs. 2019, he had 30 catches, 23 of them went for first downs. And then 2020, he had 49 receptions and 35 of those went for first downs. So he was picking up first downs when we threw him the ball. Clearly he was good with his routes to get to the correct depth. He was able to get, some yards after the catch, but just kind of knew where to be when it's 3rd and 6, you get to 7 yards. Love that about Kendrick Bourne. One of my favorite plays with Kendrick Bourne was against the Rams. I think it was 2019. It was towards the end of the game. It was 3rd and 15, I believe. And Garoppolo just throws it right down the middle, and Bourne gets it, picks up 16 yards. And that, to me, kind of almost like sums up Kendrick Bourne in a nutshell. Another great thing with Bourne, which really, really is something that the Niners need, is that he is good in the red zone. A lot of his highlights with San Francisco before, you'll see there's touchdowns, and they are, with, end goal to go or something like that. So I think you really got to like that. Of course, the Niners struggled mightily last year in the red zone. We did struggle quite a bit week 1 against the Seahawks. Somewhat understandable because, we knew Ayuk wasn't going to be there, but no Kittle and Jennings both go out during the game. It's hard to adjust on the fly. So getting a reliable red zone target like Bourne, I think, is going to be really, really good. So it's a 1-year deal worth up to $5 million. He's about a year and a half now removed from an ACL injury. So I think Kendrick Bourne has some good football ahead of him. He's just turned 30 years old. It's not like we're signing a guy who's 34 or 35. So I think this is a really good move. He's someone who knows the offense. He knows where to be. And that's what I think is going to be really helpful for a guy like Mac Jones, especially in the next few weeks. Having reliable guys. Ricky Pearsall has really blossomed so far towards the end of last season in week 1 against the Seahawks. Jawan Jennings knows where he needs to be. Kendrick Bourne knows where he needs to be. You have McCaffrey, Juszczyk. Then you kind of go down the roster a little bit more, like Russell Gage, MVS. But those guys, you're kind of getting more, into the depths of things. But overall, I think you just have a number of reliable targets. Are these guys super explosive? Are they going to go for 80 yards? Probably not. But I think that looking at Kendrick Bourne, I think he's really going to help out a guy like Mac Jones as he becomes a starter for at least the next couple of weeks, in my opinion. So yeah, there you have it, guys. There is just a whole bunch of news. Remember, I did put out a video about Colton McKivitz getting an extension, which I'm happy with that deal. So check out that video too. But overall, we're going to leave it right there for all the 49ers news. This is a lot of news for just the end of going into week 2. I mean, we, obviously, I don't know if something is cursed or whatnot. It kind of just sucks, that, Purdy's going to miss a bit of time. Kittle's going to miss a bit of time. We're still waiting for Ayuk and Malik Mustafa to come back, that this team isn't near full strength. But I think the good thing is that all of these guys are due to be back in the coming weeks. The biggest thing the Niners that we can do is if we can weather the storm. So the next 2-3 weeks are going to be challenging. But if we can go 2-1 there, let's say, that's going to be just awesome as then reinforcements come back. But I'll leave it there, guys. Thank you so much. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I do respond to every comment that is left. Let me know your thoughts about all these news. There's a lot to cover here. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. We'll talk to you guys soon. And before I go, I'm going to say 2 things, and that is the butt counts. And I'll catch you guys on the flip side.